Kenny Egan, welcome to the Modern Warrior podcast.
Finally made it. Thanks a million.
Finally made it.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Fairly drawn out process. You're a hard man to get.
I am. That's not my fault. I'm just busy and I don't want to be letting people down, but
I hear you.
Great to be here now today with you.
Yeah, brilliant, man. Well, again, we all know Kenny Egan as the boxer, but maybe fewer people know Kenny Egan without the boxing and the man behind the gloves, you know. And I know that's been a huge challenge in your own life in terms of identity tied up in sport. And obviously you've had massive success when it comes to boxing, and many people remember the Beijing Olympics and the silver medal, but fewer people will know what happened afterwards and the sort of demise and the fallout of that, and how you suffered through the consequences of the achievement ultimately. And, you know, as I said, there's a man behind the gloves that I would love to get to know better today in this conversation. I'm sure the audience too would love to get to know the man behind the gloves, and sort of going back to who you are as a man, and even before boxing came into your life. What was life like for you in those early years, and what sort of influenced you to take on the path of becoming a high performance athlete?
Yeah, good question. And funny enough, I was christened Kenneth. That's my name. And when I got into the high performance, and there was a couple of lads off the team that were from Northern Ireland called me Kenny. That's how the name stuck within the boxing world. So Kenny was the kind of name throughout the boxing career.
Yeah.
But it's Kenneth. It's always been Kenneth. You know, my mum called me Kenneth, and that's the name I go by. But yeah, look, early days, brought up in Neilstown, rough area in Dublin. My eldest brother William, started boxing at 8 years of age in Neilstown Boxing Club. And he was the one kind of spearheaded the sport in our family. It was in a school hall in Neilstown, St. Peter Apostle School, for 30 years. We'd have to go in every evening, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and hang up the bags, set up a boxing ring, and then take it all back down 2 hours later. That was Neilstown Boxing Club. And I followed suit. I followed Willie, my brother, into the gym. And, you know, I can still even smell it now, the damp leather gloves that were used back then. You can, you know, they were stinking. You opened up the box and it was first come, first served. So whoever got there would get the matching pair of gloves. Whoever was last would get a red glove and a black glove. It was rough and ready. But it was a great club, and you'd look around the club and you'd see the lads that are junior champions, Leinster champions, and you're thinking, geez, I'd love to be some sort of a champion someday, even a Dublin champion, to be the best in Dublin, imagine that. Or to be the best in Ireland. Imagine being an Irish champion. And that was my dream, to be champion of Ireland. And early years weren't great for me, because I wasn't the most technical, most talented boxer in the world. Never was, by the way. Started off quite bad. First 3 years, got the 3 All-Ireland finals, and I got beaten in all 3. So that was my retirement exit. This is my chance to get out of here now. This is not for me. I'm not good enough. I'm not fit enough. I'm not strong enough. And I wanted to walk away from the sport at 13 years of age. But my coach at the time, Noel Humson, always had this belief that, you know, keep working, Kenny, your time will come. Your time will come. And I gave it one more go. Went back into the 4th attempt at an Irish title, and I won the 4th attempt. I went on to win 15 Irish titles after that. So, you know, that 1 year that he instilled in me that belief to give it one more go. My brother Willie never got to win a senior title, but he got to a couple of senior finals. But he was the one that spearheaded me into the sport, and just went from strength to strength then when I got involved in higher level, you know, up through the ranks, winning Irish titles, getting selected for Irish squad, and getting into the high performance then. There's another journey. But yeah, it was, and my father as well was a great man for the sport as well. But Neilstown Boxing Club, a school hall, is where it all started. Yeah. Very basic, very simple. Great coaches, great people that just wanted to guide these young lads. A lot of young men in there from a really hard area in Neilstown, guiding them for a couple of nights a week, keep them out of trouble. And look, I can't say enough the great work that volunteers, Irish boxing coaches do around the country on a daily basis to guide and navigate and help young men and women just to stay on the right road for as long as they possibly can. It's outstanding.
Mm-hmm. What was life like outside of the boxing club though? Were you influenced to join the club because of the hardships outside of the club in terms of scraps on the street, or you know, the difficulties of your environment?
Well, my mum had 5 boys, so you can imagine that, in the middle of Neilstown. So she just wanted us to be safe, wanted us to look after each other. I was the second youngest, so any kind of sport at all, she'd encourage us to get involved in. Now, I tried all different sports when I was growing up, bit of hurling, wasn't great at them. But boxing, like I said earlier, I wasn't the most talented, but I did want to learn. I always wanted to learn as much as I possibly could with the sport. And my coach at the time, Noel Humpson, who passed away when I was 18, didn't get to see me actually win my first senior title. That was a devastating blow for me, but he was a great man. He used to collect us every evening from our house and drop us back. He lived in Walkinstown. It was great. It's just you'd hear the horn going outside. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he'd be there at 7 o'clock on the button. And that's a man that's given us time, you know, to bring us to the club, teach us a new sport, encourage us, look after us, guide us, if you will. And he was a massive influence in my life growing up, because those teenage years is, you know, very tricky. And I was kind of dabbling and started drinking at a quite young age in the fields with the lads, you know. Not that I get into the wrong company, but I was part of that wrong company. I'm not going to blame anyone for my own wrongdoing. But I enjoyed having the crack and the bit of banter with the few cans, and that was the start of me drinking and that other life I was living then, you know. So I was boxing, loved boxing, and then I loved a bit of crack at the weekends with the lads. So, and that kind of, the two loves started to gather pace. I was getting better at boxing and I was enjoying me drinking, and amalgamated the two of them together right through my career, which was like not normal, you know. It really wasn't. And to tell you about the kind of like benders I went on, and even before the Olympics, you know, even before I qualified, you know, talk about doing things the hard way. It's hard enough to step into a ring fully conditioned, fully sober, fully switched on, and fight another man head on. That's a very difficult thing to do. Not many men have done that in their lives. I was doing that regular. And when I wasn't doing that, I was on the piss drinking to oblivion. That's not normal. That's not healthy. And that's not sustainable. But I tried to, I suppose, juggle those balls for as long as I possibly could. The madness of it, even saying it out loud there, it's just total carnage.
So did you find yourself in situations where you were drinking maybe a couple of days or nights before a fight and
I got
feeling
to
the consequences of that?
The tail end of me drinking, I kind of had it mastered that if I stopped drinking 2 weeks out from a fight, I'd have enough time just to turn it around just in time, just to be switched on.
But that's whilst all the training is going on as well, because the training is so intense.
Training's horrendous. I used to come into the high performance, and I remember one time in the high performance, I come in after the Olympics for Billy Walsh. Billy Walsh was our head coach at the time. He asked me to come in and do a training session with the junior team. Me being the Olympic silver medalist, they'd love to train with you. I said, oh yeah, no bother. Of course, I went on the batter one weekend or whatever, and I come in, and I was in such a bad state. They set up 5 hurdle hops down the strength and conditioning area, and of course I went down to show them how to jump over the hurdle hops. Now there's 5 hurdle hops there. I'm seeing 25 hurdle hops. Now I'm not proud saying this out loud. Like, I'm the high performance Olympic silver medalist in a world of hurt after being on a bench for God knows how long, and I make an attempt to jump over the hurdle hops. I fall on my face in front of the young lads, and Billy looked at me. He said, "Can I get the fuck out of here?" And that was that. I went out, tail between my legs, home. You know, that was just one sad, pitiful event that I lived, if you like, in front of people. And there's loads of them stories, but you know, that's not right.
That's,
you know,
crushing, man.
It's horrendous.
Humiliation.
And I'm getting up off the ground, and the young lad, look, I don't even know who was there, what kids were there though. Junior champions, looking at this Olympic silver medalist. Eyes like 2 piss holes in the snow. In a heap, shaking like a leaf, and just, I shouldn't have been there. But I wanted to, you know, do the right thing and get torn up. I shouldn't have. Horrendous. Billy, get the F out here. He ran me out the door. And like, me and Billy had a kind of a strange relationship after the Olympics, where he knew himself that I was causing havoc, and we had good chats about me drinking, and I said I'd stop, and you know, but I wouldn't, and you know, it wasn't good, you know. But he was right. I was killing myself. He said it to me. That drink's going to kill you. But that was the relationship I had with, you know, I was doing no one any harm as long as I had my few points. I was all right. Terrible. But
I presume that wasn't the turning point. That wasn't the point where you left there and then you said, okay, I'm going to stop.
Oh now. God, no. Jeez, are you joking me? No. There's loads of different stories I could go through, but like there was a few there. The tail end of me drinking, like, you know, like when I come back from the games, like I said to you, like my medal got me into recovery quicker, because if I didn't win that medal, I would have come back as an Olympian. Now, there's nothing wrong with just being an Olympian. Jeez, don't get me wrong. It's so hard to become an Olympian. People don't really realise that. You know, you have to qualify for Olympic Games. You have to be at a certain standard in all different aspects of the sport you're in. It's horrendous to try and get there. Now, I tried to qualify for 2004 and I failed. I was 22 years of age, and I made a hames of the qualifying process and just ruined it. And I was going to walk away again from sport. That was my second bout at retirement. I'm not good enough. I'm not fit enough. I'm not strong enough. But I believed in the structure that was being set up. Billy Walsh, Gary Keegan, great bunch of people that wanted to improve Irish boxing. And they put everything in their powers to try and build us up as individuals and as athletes. So I trusted the system.
Mm.
So I gave her 4 more years. Now, not knowing the outcome, that's what Olympic cycle is like. You put all your eggs in the basket. You don't know if you're going to qualify or not. And but I did improve something fierce over the next 4 years with Zor and Billy and Gary.
Did you was the drinking sort of?
The drinking was kind of managed, but there were still benders here and there. But I was training very, very hard.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. Right throughout those 4 years. Get myself into super shape, winning fights, losing fights. And when it came to the qualifiers then, again, last chance saloon stuff, I got beaten in my first 2 qualifiers for Beijing. So I had 1 chance left. Talk about doing things the hard way. So I failed 3 for Athens in 2004. Didn't go to the Olympics. And I was on the verge of failing 3 attempts for Beijing. And I had young lads like Paddy Barnes come onto the team. He's only on it a wet week and he's qualified for the Olympics. Because he didn't give a fiddlers. He had no pressure. He had no worries about what people might think. He just went out qualified. That was it. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm the oldest on the team, not qualified yet, thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I had my own battles in my own head. Am I good enough? I shouldn't be an Olympian. Should I be an Olympian? All this crazy stuff. And I remember 2 weeks out from the last qualifier, we were going to Pescara in Italy. No, that was the second last. We went to Greece actually to qualify. It was the last qualifier in Greece and Athens, where the Olympics began back in 1896 or whatever it was. So it was real special to go out there. But 2 weeks before that qualifier, I was up in Gary Keegan's office, the director of high performance. And I'm pacing up and down the office, panicking. Gary, what if I don't win over here? What if I don't qualify? What if I don't become the Olympian? What if? And Gary says, Kenneth, what training session have you got right now? And I looked at him. I says, we have a bag session downstairs. Wrap your hands and do your bag session. And the penny dropped. I was thinking too far ahead into the future. What if might this happen? What judges? What if I get dodgy judges? What if I get a bad score? What opponent if I get a dodgy opponent? All these what ifs. Focus on your next session. And that's when I started to be mindful about my training. 2 weeks out from that last qualifier, 1 session at a time, 1 punch at a time, 1 spar at a time, and stayed in that moment and executed everything perfectly as best I could. Got to the qualifier, travelled to Greece, won my first fight, won my second fight, and in the third fight where I needed to beat the German to qualify. This is now, whoever wins this fight goes to Beijing. We were in the ring and we fought for 2 minutes. We sat on our stools. I got the score, it was 2-2. Now I knew this German, we trained in a previous training camp and he was quite good. It was 50-50 this fight. Went out to the second round, sat back in the stool, 4-4. So there was no one taking any crazy risks here, but we were running out of rounds. Who's going to make the first mistake? This is, talk about high-end risk-taking. This is for the Olympic Games, to get your tracksuit with the 5 rings on it. And in the third round, out we went and engaged, and it's like time stood still. And all these thoughts came into my head. What if I don't win this fight? I won't be the Olympian. What job am I going to get? How am I going to make a few pounds? I'll only be remembered as an 8-time senior champion. All this crazy stuff. But the red sign, like a stop sign on the road, came into my head. Stop. And I snapped out of that trance real fast and just focused on that next score. That 1 punch I needed to land. And I hit him, cracking left hand, scored the shot. And in my head, that's a point. Then I scored again. I sat back in the stool. There was 2 points going up into the last round. And I went out then into the last round, boxed clever, making a miss, scoring. When the bell rang, I dropped to my knees. I won the fight. That's where I won my Olympic medal. In Greece, when I qualified, I just went to Beijing to collect it.
Yeah.
The pressure was off. The monkey was off me back.
Yeah.
I finally had that tracksuit with the 5 rings on it. Imagine that. Went out to one of the hotels out in Malahide there to collect it. All the Olympians went out to get their gear. And there I was looking at my bag. Because I remember 4 years previous, I went to a training camp with Andy Lee. He was the only one that qualified 4 years previous in France. Billy Walsh had asked me to go to a training camp with him. I didn't want to go. And we went anyway. I went over with him, keep him company and train with him. And the last day we were leaving, I was packing my shitty old training bag and he was packing his Olympic bag with the 5 rings on it and all his lovely suits and his t-shirts and the whole lot. And off he went to Athens. And I came back to Dublin. Horrendous, you know. But these kind of things in life, they mould us, they test us. Now I could have walked away 10,000 times away in boxing. Why did I keep coming back? I was a devil for punishment. I knew there was something better out there for me if I had just put the work in, keep putting the work in. And that was it, you know. I didn't just shy away from it. I says, right, give me these 4 more years. Let's go. Let's work with Zor. Let's try and get. I remember Zor saying to me when he first met me, when he came into Ireland in the early 2000s, like, I thought it was an 8 out of 10 because I was kind of a couple of times senior champion and half decent. And Zor in his broken English told me I was 2 out of 10. And I looked at him. Now that could have went two ways. I could have told him to F off. I'm not working with him. Or they'll say, okay, I'm a 2 out of 10, make me an 8 out of 10. And I chose the latter. And we started working together. Imagine we're spending an awful lot of time with a coach, twice a day, 6 days a week, working on things, training, pushing ourselves. He knows your weak points, your strong points. He knows how to piss you off, knows how to calm you. It's a great relationship that's working all the time. And he's doing that for 10 other lads. So there's a big undertaking for him,
Yeah.
And it's his job to try and get the best out of each individual. Even though we're all working as a team, it's individually based, where I like to counter punch, someone else might like to attack, someone other like to, aggressor. All these different things. And he has to work with all those individually. But yeah, you bring us all together as a team.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And then to become your best, he has to expose the worst in you as well, isn't it? Which is difficult to take,
Yeah, and like I do it myself. Like, great example, we went to Russia for a training camp. Didn't want to go to Russia because they were the best in the world. Spent 3 weeks there, and we recorded them Russians sparring each other. And it showed what we were doing sparring each other. Every 6 to 7 seconds, an action would happen in our ring. So we would do something every 6 to 7 seconds between ourselves. The Russians every 2.5 seconds. So we were lazy.
As in you'd engage a
feint,
seconds.
attack or something.
Yeah.
Every 6 to 7 seconds is a lifetime away between each other. That shows you how busy you need to be.
Yeah.
So our whole training structure had to change. Yeah. We had to be busy. You had to be massively functional.
Yeah.
For those, don't forget, they're only 2-minute rounds at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
But you have to be busy to win the round. 75% of fighters who win the first round go on and win the fight. So you can't start slow and ease your way into it. Not like professional boxing where you have 12 3-minute rounds, where you can take a round off or you can lose a round. This is all go. That's the hard part. It's very, very hard. So we noticed the Russians were doing that, and we said, we have to change our training here. We need to be able to keep up with these boys and have a condition that allow us work like at that rate for that period of time, for 2 minutes. Then take a minute down, get your heart rate down as quick as possible, and off you go. You're only 50 seconds, but when you sit in your stool and get back up again, it's 50 seconds and you're gone again. And your first round has to be the same pace as your last round. You can't have, like I said, lulls around. It's just boom, all go. Savage pace and your concentration all the time, something happening all the time, every couple of seconds.
Do you feel that was was that a defining experience for the Olympic team at that time? That influenced the great success with the boxing team?
It was great learning because
something more.
Yeah, the high performance was set up like at the start. We went to France. We had terrible trouble getting into the country because these countries knew about the Irish culture. The Irish, like, they come over to camp and they let their hair down, they have the crack and they drink it. So we couldn't get into France for a long time. Gary Keegan kept sending emails. Finally, they accepted us and they brought us over for a 2-week camp, and we got our asses kicked. Our conditioning wasn't great. This is our first abroad, our first training camp abroad. We couldn't live with the French for the period of time because we weren't fit enough, we weren't strong enough. But we were learning from them, and we brought what they were using back to our base. Then we went back again, we started getting the better of the French. Then we went to Germany. So we were getting involved with all these different nations and training with them. And then obviously the Russian location came up, and I went, ooh, what's going on there? Because I was a little bit fearful because they're the best in the world, and I don't like getting punched in the face, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm boxing over 20 years. I didn't like getting hit. It's funny to say that. I hated getting hit. And if someone hit me with a good clean shot, I'd want to know how they hit me with that shot. And I would go back on my video analysis and look, oh yeah, I see what you're doing there. I didn't like getting hit.
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't. But so it was great learning. But you have to go to these places to learn from these people. We're not going to evolve staying in our own place, our own camp.
Yeah. You're sort of you're stuck in a certain box.
No good. You're in there and you're mixing with the best in the world, watching what they're doing. That's how you rob stuff from them.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. And that's how you improve. You get into bed with the best in the world.
Yeah.
As hard as it may be, but there's learning in that.
That was never a thing before.
We didn't have any funding around back before high performance.
Yes,
we used to bring probably a country over to us and train for England maybe, or Scotland or whatever, but there was no funding at all in box. The last medal we won was 92 with Michael Cruton.
And Wayne
McCullough, so big drought there. 16 years of a drought of nothing happening.
Yeah. Small
Numbers qualifying, Andy Lee only the one in Athens the year before that. Where was that? Sydney, I think it was.
Yeah. 1
or 2, it's not good.
Yeah.
So to get the numbers across the line was a big thing. And once you get the numbers across the line, then you have a chance then of performing at the highest stage.
So when you got to Beijing there, as you said, you won that silver medal, you won that medal in Athens.
Yeah.
So do you feel you would have been satisfied just to had gone to the Olympics and come home without a medal? The medal was like just a bonus?
All I wanted to be was the Olympian. And I kind of almost reverse psychology myself to think, I'm going over here to have fun, enjoy myself, and just perform. And we had that mindset in the team. We'd only 5 there. We stuck together in the Olympic Village, training the way out just outside our apartment. But just that whole, let's just enjoy ourselves and let's just get the best performance out of each fight. That's all we can do. And that was the mindset, to take the pressure off. We have to win medals.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have to do anything. Just perform the best we can. And if our opponent beats you, he beats you. You'll shake his hand and that's it. And I remember I was forced on. I was the team captain going to Beijing.
That's right.
I remember the draw was made and I was forced on the first night after the opening ceremony. So I didn't get to go to the opening ceremony. I was back in my digs on my own. The whole team left.
Paddy was out there loving life.
They're all there running around with his flags and having great crack. And I was sitting watching it all on the screen in the apartment. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind that. So I went out first day to fight. And I remember talking to Marty Morrissey coming back out of the ring. I beat my first opponent. And I said to Marty, I'm the first man in and I'll be the last man out. I'm in good shape here. My head is clear. And I was happy. I was relaxed.
Yeah.
Nice and chilled. You know, that flow state, they call it. Where you can't do any more to better yourself. You're just there. Yeah. You're in that space. And that was me. Of all competitions to have that mindset, in Olympic Games, not a World Championships or the Europeans, the Olympics, I'm feeling good here.
The one that you feel you'd be most pressurized to perform in.
And so many world champions get beaten in first fights at Olympic Games or European champions.
Yeah.
They struggle with the whole size of the event, you know. But I says, I'm good here. I'm content. I'm laughing. I'm having the crack.
Yeah.
I'm slagging.
I've got my tracksuit.
I love all that. You have my tracksuit with the 5 rings.
Yeah.
And I just took it one fight at a time.
Yeah.
Like that process when I qualified, just 1 point at a time, 1 round at a time. And there we are floating through the Olympic Games right through to the final.
Yeah.
You know, it was an amazing tournament. And just the event itself, like I was looking at superstars sitting across me in the canteen. The Williams sisters, Serena and Venus, Roger Federer over here, Nadal down here. They're all just sitting there having their grub, doing the same thing I was doing to try and go out and perform. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. A great experience. And that's something I could take to my grave, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Not many people can experience that, yeah. And then when you were in your last fight in the final, when you didn't get the gold, was that where you're like, well, or was it?
I remember going to the weigh-in that morning, before the fight, because you weigh in the day before. No, sorry, you weigh in the day of your fight, and we had to get a bus out of the village down to this hotel to weigh in, and I weighed in, made me weigh 80.9 or whatever it was, perfect. And my opponent stood on the scales as well, and I seen him there, I gave him a wink. But he was everything. He suited me so well, the size of him, his reach, and a big target. And I felt I can actually beat this lad. This I can beat this fella. It's perfect for me. And we come back to the digs, and we chilled out for the day. I remember going down and saying, "Look, I know I can win this fight. I know I can." But I didn't really envisage the enormity of it all. Like, to me, it was another competition. I kept it simple. It's just like a multi-nations, and I'm in a final of a multi-nations, and I can win this competition. And obviously, the way the fight went, the first round I was 2 down, and my style of boxing is I go on the back foot. I'm a counter puncher. I make boxers miss and then counter them, and I didn't get that first kick that I needed at the start. But in saying that, I had a good second round, a great third round. And there was points that I scored clearly that he got the point for. Now, human error, I tried judging. It's very, very hard. We have a red button and a blue button. There's 5 judges around the ring. And if a blue hits the score, you have to hit that within 1 second. The blue button, within 1 second. 3 of the 5 judges. And I was judging before around in competitions, and I'd be hitting the wrong button by mistake, looking up and down. It is, look. And once I stayed behind, he always had a great chance of winning because I'm a counter puncher, but I had to go forward in times. But I still think I scored shots where I didn't score. And looking at it, I feel I won it by 2 or 3 points. Looking back at it, now I cried over that for many a day after those games. Poor me. I should have been gold medalist. But looking back at it, like if I was offered a silver medal at the start of those games, I would have took it with both hands. I'm very grateful for the achievement I've mustered up in those 2 weeks in Beijing, and I'm at peace with that now. It doesn't define who I am. Look, Kenneth Egan in August 2008. For 2 weeks was a very good boxer. All those years before that, putting in the work allowed me to be in that position to step on that plane, to go to those games. So it's not just about the 2 weeks in Beijing. It's what happened before that moulded me, that shaped me, the failures, the coming through that airport with no medals, the times I wanted to retire, the times I didn't retire, had me on that podium, accepting that silver medal. So it was the journey more than the end product. But I struggled then with the end product. That was it then. The show was over. Right, I wanted to stay in that ring forever. That bell rang at the end. I dropped to my knees. The first thought that came into my head was, what the fuck do I do now?
In the ring?
Yeah. What do I do now? It's over. I didn't want it to be over. That's it. That's it. What the hell?
And then you come home then as the Olympic silver medalist, and then...
That's all great, but like, what's the purpose?
Yeah. It's like you've climbed the highest
climbed
mountain.
Everest now. And you know what they say about Everest?
Yeah.
The more people die coming down off the Everest. And that was me. Typical. Like, it took me, when I put my first pair of gloves on, watching Michael Crute win his gold medal, 16 years later, I'm on that Everest peak, sticking me flag in the top of the mountain. 2 years later, I'm at rock bottom at death's door. I didn't know how to, come down that mountain. And I struggled very much so with that whole, if you want to call it fame, We were just boxers going out there to represent. We'd done it for years, going out and winning medals.
Yeah.
That was just a sport we loved. But then the whole view of coming home as someone like a superstar type of thing,
A celebrity,
celebrity.
Yeah.
I'm not a celebrity. Never was a celebrity.
Yeah.
Hate that word. Celebrities are them idiots that go on Love Island or whatever it is. This carry on.
Yeah.
Famous for nothing, But I worked very, very hard to get to that position I was in and to perform the way I did in those games. I was a high performance athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I worked very, very hard, watched me diet, watched me hydration, done everything I needed to do. And then it was over. And then I come back and then it was just very different. Ireland was different to me through my eyes. Small little country we live in. 3 medals.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned to you, 54 athletes from Ireland travelled to Beijing. 5 of those athletes won medals, all being boxing. 3 of those medalists, one ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, one ended up in Gamblers Anonymous, and one died by suicide. How do you work that one out? I was lucky that I accepted my shortcomings and knew that I had a problem and put my hands up and says, I can't beat this alcohol anymore. I need to change. And I asked for help. Paddy Barnes did the same with his gambling. Darren, Lord rest his soul, didn't have that avenue to talk to someone, to pick up a phone, to ask for help. And out of all 3 of us, he should be in the world champion, standing on a podium with 10 belts around his neck because of the person he was. He was a machine. If people didn't know how hard he trained. He was as big as me, but fought a weight below me, 75 kilos. So imagine what he had to do to make that weight. That was a fight in itself for him.
Mm-hmm.
When he get to the ring then, he was a monster. But he had it all worked out. His life was perfect. He never drank, never smoked, never drugs, nothing. Wanted to be an Olympic medalist. That's it. Come home, sign a contract, go pro, win a world title. Amazing how he switched on and how much he had his life worked out. I was going home to go hatchet and go and drink and party and celebrate and think I was a great bloke, And I was at death's door in those 2 years. I had contemplated suicide. But Jesus, thank God, with the grace of whatever higher power, I had good people around me. I had a great family and I was able to just connect with people and ask for help. That's why I'm still here today, because I did pick up the phone and said, I can't do this anymore.
Big thanks to Earthkind, our new sponsor of the Modern Warrior podcast. They have some incredible products like the tallow and honey balm, which is great for skin hydration and repair. And then they've got the wild yam balm, which helps to relax the body and calm the mind. I've been using both of these products. The wild yam balm has certainly been helping with my sleep, and the tallow and honey balm has certainly helped with my skin. So go check them out. Click the link below and grab yourself a couple of these. Was there anyone in your life at that time that knew what was going on, or were you sort of...
No, it was very
left
very public, My drinking was very public. Wasn't a house drinker. I was just out drinking all the time in public and, getting into horrendous states. Everyone's seeing my demise, It was very public. My poor mother, Lord rest her soul, tried everything to stop me from drinking, One episode where, I tell the story and it's I'm in my bed. I'm still living at home after the games, and I'm in my bed, dying of a hangover. Mum comes in and kicks the end of the bed, asks me to bring her for a drive. She doesn't drive, so she asked me to bring her for a drive. I'm in no fit state to do this. I'm still in my clothes from the night before. And please, she says, I need to bring you for a drive. So he says, right, get up out of bed. Went down the stairs, get into the car. She goes, go to the top of the road, go left, go right. Wouldn't tell me where we're going. 10 minutes later, I figured out we were going up to the graveyard in Newlands Cross where she'd buried 2 sons before I came along. My eldest brother's twin and a brother older than me. And I was thinking, why does she want to do this today? I'm hungover here. Poor me. God love me, She got to the grave anyway and she walked up and she took out a spare plastic bag and put it on the ground. Put her knees on it and started pulling the weeds out of the grave. And I'm standing there not wanting to be there, just thinking, why am I here? And she looked up at me and she's kind of, if you don't stop drinking, you're going to end up here with the 2 lads. And there was me thinking, my poor mother has to kind of think outside the box, trying to get me to look at my own self-destruction by doing something like this, to hope that the penny would drop. And that was one little seed that was planted. But I drank after that. But I just kind of seen the damage I was causing to my immediate family.
Yeah.
I was a horrible bastard when I was drinking. Not violent, just fucking stupid. Just drinking and not caring about anything else but as long as I was on the high stool. Drinking my life away.
Angry?
No responsibility.
Were you angry?
Not angry, no anger. Jesus, no. But just full of just a fear of responsibility, fear of making big decisions, just putting everything on the long finger.
Yeah.
You know, and there was loads of talk of me going professional when I come back from the games as well. And lads were throwing stupid contracts at me and all. And I wasn't in any fit state to look at anything. You know, they flew me out to New York, flew me to Los Angeles. I'm bringing lads with me and we're going over looking at contracts, and that evening then we're going at you. You know, stupid stuff.
Oh, just another
piss up.
Exactly. Yeah.
And on the final, it was funny enough, there was one promoter, he passed away since, Lord rest his soul, but he had offered me $1 million to sign for him in New York. And I kind of was in a good headspace and was sober and was training away, and I was in a good space to say, let's talk about this. And he brought the contracts over with him, flew over from New York, the Clarion Hotel at the Liffey Valley, and I was sitting there with my coach, ready to sign the dotted line. But I stopped. And what stopped me from signing that was the fact that I was selling them a dud. I wasn't right. I wasn't in the right shape or way or form to sign any kind of contract that could have been extended to 10 years. This man that I don't barely know, I'm signing a contract to step over into the pro game for 10 years potentially. And me in a world of hurt. So I actually declined that evening, and he went mad. I'm after flying over from New York and this, that, and that. I said, look, I'm sorry. Trust me, I'm making the right decision here. And that's when I started making phone calls. I knocked into a neighbour of mine who was in recovery 20 years and mentioned AA, and that was the start of my journey. Knocked into him and said, look, I need to get into a treatment centre. He said, no. He said, let's just go to a meeting together. And I was full of fear of, what if people recognise me? I'm the same arsehole that's falling off stools in the middle of pubs in town. What if someone recognised me in an AA meeting? You know, the madness of it all.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We'll go to somewhere quiet, he said, for your first meeting. So I went to a meeting, and he went, as soon as I walked in the door, someone was like, how are you, Kenny? You having a cup of tea? I said, yeah, I have a cup of tea. And I sat there and I sat at the back of the room listening to people sharing stories. And I could relate to every one of them. I said, this is where I need to be. And that was the start of my journey into recovery, you know. And I was 3 months sober and felt training hard, still competing and all, you know. So tipping away, in great shape. And I had booked to go to Uganda the year previous for a charity, going over building houses, you know. And so that had come around, and I got me injections, and off I went to Uganda. And I was over there working away, building away in the houses and having the crack. And on the last day, they had a going away party for all the teachers and the nurses and all. I was going home a day earlier than the rest of them, so they had this party in a big bungalow. And I was sitting in my little house with mosquito net over me thinking, should I go to this party? I'm 3 months sober here now. The longest I've ever been sober in my life. 3 months is a long time. Should I go down here or will I leave her? What do you think? Thinking to myself. There's a little battle in my head. Should I go down for an hour? I said, show me face. So I go down to the party anyway. A couple of lad guitars were playing, someone having the crack. And I was sitting there having my glass of Coke, all as well. And I looked over to me right, and it was a round table, circular table with loads of crisps and popcorn on it, bits and pieces. And right in the middle of that was a red label bottle of vodka sticking out, a whole lot of it. And I'm sitting there looking over it, and I looked away, and I'm looking at it again. And it's like it's flirting with me. It's throwing me a wink, and it's blowing me a kiss. And I said to myself, sure, I'll just have one. Sure, no one knows here that I have an issue anyway, so I'll just have one. I went over and poured the vodka into the Coke, neck down. I could feel the heat of the alcohol. I could feel it now talking about it, running through my system. I always think of when I was drinking, it was like the Incredible Hulk. Yeah. You know, when he's drinking and he goes green, he's full of power and he's rare to go.
Yeah.
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
And then when he's finished, then he goes back to his normal self and he's lying in a heap on the ground.
Yeah.
That'd be me on the day after me drinking.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly what it was. That's the best way to describe it.
You'd still be green just, isn't it? Yeah. Green fucking sick.
Green.
Yeah.
But green, powerful, strong. But then when he turns back and he's just in the ground, his jeans don't fit and he's in a world of hurt. That's the hangover, you know. Yeah. And that was me. Yeah. So I let the hair down. An hour later, got carried out of the place. Really drunk, you know, back to me mosquito net. Woke back up and jumped on the back of a Honda 50 and went into the town. Like the middle of Uganda. Talk about safety and everything else. Total reckless.
Does the same night you said, or does the next morning?
The next day, straight up in the middle of the sweltering heat into the town and on the piss for the day on my own. Now, luckily enough, they found me, had my suitcase packed and I was gone and just barely made me fly. And I stopped up. There was a stopover in Holland. Stayed there, drank all day in the airport, got back to Dublin and drank for 10 days after that, right? Every day, non-stop. Same jeans, the smell, the stubble, the whole lot. And on the last day of me drinking, which was the 12th of August 2010, I was in a pub in Nice with a pool cue in one hand and a half pint of Guinness in the other, drinking away. And the doors open in the pub and the sun, it was really sunny, the sun had been blasting through the door. You could always see the dust coming off the snooker table, the pool table. Who was standing at the door looking at me? My mum.
Your mother, yeah.
Yeah, she found me. She got a lift down to come down to get me. And she says, come on home, son. That's what she said, come home, son. And I get into the back of the car. Didn't say a word to anyone in the car. Just sat all the way home in silence. And that was the last drink I ever had. The 12th of August 2010. Something just dropped. I said, I can't do this anymore. This is just this battle I cannot win. And when I accepted I was powerless over alcohol, that I couldn't beat it, put my hands up, I came out the winner. And that was when I started to live again, you know?
Yeah.
Work on my recovery, got back into the meetings, get good recovery under my belt, went back to college, got a diploma in addiction studies, learning more about addiction, learning more about people. Went on to do a degree in counselling, psychotherapy, staying in that environment, learning all the time with different people, continuing with AA, getting recovery, doing secretary, and just helping people just navigate why the addiction, you know, why the pain, what's going on. And I love getting the odd text off someone, Kenneth, I'm 6 months sober or 8 months gone. And it's not me saying I'm a great bloke. That's just, I had a little part to play in trying to tell them that there's life outside of the madness.
Yeah.
You know, give yourself a chance to have a look at that life, see what it looks like to you. Because we're so blinkered, you know, fearful of what normality looks like, fearful of what sober life looks like. Oh, Jesus, sober? Oh, no. And it's amazing. Like I said, I'm sober nearly 16 years now. My greatest ever achievement is to stop that drinking on the 12th of August. Now, look, the medal is amazing, don't get me wrong. But if I was still drinking to this day, do you think I'd be here? Would you be ringing me for a chat? I'd be, there's two scenarios, and I often think of this. If I was still drinking, there's a lovely photo in my local pub, right, of me with the medal in the bar. And I could envisage if I was still drinking, that I'd be up at that pub now, right, giving some 20-year-old an elbow, saying, you see that fella there on the wall? That's me. Any chance you can buy me a pint? And that's how real that is, because I'd have no money. I'd be still living in my parents' house, which is about 100 metres away from the pub, up in the front room. That's my life at 44 years of age. With God knows what carnage before that. Going up there looking for some young lad to buy me a drink. That's the one outcome. The other one would be, I'm in town somewhere on O'Connell Bridge with a beard this length, looking for a bit of change. Because it would have taken everything from me. I can see it. I would have took everything. But the life I have now, Jesus, I have a 10-year-old daughter who has never seen me drunk or drinking, being sober as long as I am, never seen the inside of a pub, is not in that environment. We don't talk about alcohol. We don't, you know, it's not in our vocabulary. It's not there. Different lifestyle altogether. So she's a different view of how to live life, you know? And that in itself, for me, would be a great start for her growing up. To see that her father's not falling the door on a Friday night or Saturday night or Sunday night, kicking the dog, screaming, shouting, cursing, all those different things, you know. The carnage that children latch onto and listen to and absorb. There's none of that in my family, you know. And but again, my sobriety is more important than my daughter. Because I do think of drinking, don't get me wrong, I do. And there's a real thing, there's a little phrase I go through where if I have a bad day or someone annoys me, I do think of drinking. Yeah, of course I do. And I think of that black pint of Guinness. But I fast forward 10 days from that first pint and I see where I'm at. And I'll tell you what it looks like. It's me down the arsehole of Kerry in a quiet pub with a firelight in the corner with a wad of 50s that size, high-fiving some 90-year-old outfit telling them dirty jokes with the smell of piss rising out my jeans. That's exactly where I am in 10 days' time. From that first point of Guinness. So how do I avoid being on that high stool in Kerry? Stay away from that first point of Guinness. And I'm winning. Once I stay away from that first. It's not the 100 point that does the damage. It's the first one. And I'm very aware of that. And my awareness today allows me to make those good choices. I have so much to lose if I start drinking again. The family home, my wife, the child, how she'd even see me, you know, how she'd judge me, how she'd view me. Horrendous. And it's just carnage. So I just stay sober. One day at a time. Like I'm finished with you now, Going to go for a run later on maybe. That's my day done then. Tomorrow I'll wake up and we start again. But there's 2 things I do every day. And I'm doing this the last 10 years. When I get out of bed in the morning, I tell myself I'm a good person. Because I am a good person. The actions prove it. I'm going out to do a good day, honest, whatever I have to do on the day. I'm not screwing anyone over. I'm not being deceitful. I'm not being unfaithful. I'm not causing any havoc. Being genuine and authentic throughout the whole day. And at night time when I go to bed, I say thank you. I'm very grateful for what I have today. The gratitude I have is massive for the simple life I live. Nothing extravagant, nothing fancy. To get on my day's work and at night then putting that head on the pillow and having an honest good night's kipper out looking over my shoulder. That's heaven for me. That's all I ask for. You know? Special.
Did you get to the root cause of the alcohol? Because I would see alcohol as being the coping mechanism for something else that maybe you were lacking or suffering with within. Did you get to that place?
We come from a family of 5 boys. And as you know, when I'm working through my own family dynamics, you know, the first child is the favourite, second child, the second favourite, third, fourth, up to the fourth one. Like, so I didn't have the same upbringing as the first 2 or 3 would be. That's normal in families.
Yeah.
But there was a slight anxiety there around, you know, talking to people. I remember there was a story my mum told me before we went to see a Santi, myself and my little brother. He's 2 years younger than me. And I sat on Santi's lap and I got my brother to tell Santi what I wanted for Christmas. Just didn't want to speak to strangers, or, you know, there was that restriction. Found it very hard to talk to people. And then when the alcohol came into at 13, 14, it was just like, I can talk to anyone here. I'm bulletproof. I'm invincible here, you know? And there was that connection with it that allowed me just express myself. Yeah. And I loved that part of me.
So you didn't feel like you were safe to express yourself in some way? Yeah, but then the alcohol
exactly, it gave me that
the courage to take the risk.
Yeah. And I was like, geez, I can be who I want now, you know? And I felt great in that. But then when I stopped drinking again, I go back into myself. And like I said, I had the sport there that was kind of covering that up. So I engaged in the sport. It's an individual sport. You're tipping away. You're on your own most of the time.
Another way to express yourself as well, isn't it? Like you're expressing yourself through the sport. Exactly. You express yourself through your voice. But then without the sport or the alcohol, you struggle then to express yourself. I hate coming out of the ring and doing interviews and stuff, you know, and talking to people or doing newspaper. Let me just box. Yeah. Right? Now, if I'm drinking, I'll talk to you all night long. But I'm at a place where I can come in here now and sit with you and be very comfortable about what I'm talking about. Because what I'm saying, I'm open about and I'm honest about. There's no lies here. So I'm not afraid to trip myself up. I'm not afraid of you asking me a question that I think, that's you're not allowed to say that. I'm an open book now, you see. Yeah. And that recovery has given me that. You know, I'm able to sit in my own skin. Not at all. Yeah. I'm in my own skin now, and like I'm quite content with the person I am today. You know, warts and all. And that allows me be authentic and do the right thing on a daily basis. And then in terms of the boxing, what do you feel that gave you and what did it take away from you?
Yeah, boxing for me, look, I love boxing. If I had a chance to do it all again, I would. And look, it's not glamorous. We traveled all over the world living out of suitcases to the depths of hell, like countries that were really rough, you know, in the middle of winter. And it was just horrendous, but it was great bunch of lads, great bit of crack. But it gave me a great sense of achievement, you know, pushing yourself to the limit. Boxing's a tough sport. You're making weight, you're training twice a day, 6 days a week. You're testing yourself with the best in the world. That's what I loved about it. This wasn't like small stuff. This was high-end competition. And when you're in that kind of environment, it's powerful, you know, and that can only build character. And I loved being in with the best in the world. Even though saying going to Russia at the start, but we went back the following year, then went to Ukraine. We were good to go. We were matching them. We were just as good as them. Because we found out that they weren't actually monsters. They're human beings. Okay, they're fit and they're strong, but you can still give them a smack. They can still take a smack. They can still get cut. They can still hurt. And once you kind of get over that fear, hang on for a second, you have to wince in there a little bit. Okay, let's have you. You know what I mean? Whereas it's always like the same, you know, when the monster in the attic, your mum would tell you, stay away from that attic, there was a monster up there, the fear. Yeah. Like, here's the perfect example. My little one, when she was small and she was acting a maggot, I'd say, you keep messing now, I'm going to turn green on you. Right? And this, I kept her in check with that kind of a statement for a period of time. Yeah. And one day I said it to her and she says, go on then. Go turn green. And I'm looking at her going, what? I was caught. Yeah. That's exactly what it was like. Checkmate. Yeah. She had me. And she looked at me, you know. Yeah. That's what it was like going to Russia. Yeah. Are they bulletproof? No, they're human beings. We can mix it with the best in the world here. We can beat these boys.
Yeah.
You know, when you go over that initial fear, oh, they're unstoppable. No, they're not. Let's give this a go here and let's give it a lash. But that's like, a perfect example.
You fear that, but you do not know. Then once you go there, you find out.
I can't.
Yeah.
Great, though. It's great learning, you know.
Class.
But boxing's been great. Look, I was lucky enough to be on a senior team for 12, 13 years. Mm-hmm. Some lads only get 1 year. Some lads go to a senior title, wins one title, represent their country for a year, then they come get beaten the year later. Mm-hmm. I've had 12 or 13 years of international services, traveling all over the world. One of the longest serving Irish amateur boxers, and that's great. But and the different lads I meet and different teams going through, because the team would change every year. I was still part of it. New lads coming in, younger lads. It was great personalities, great crack, bouncing off a lot of them. You know, it's great to look back at that and say, you know, I was part of that golden era of high performance boxing. I was there before it started, right through the middle of it, and then, you know, stepped away from it then when I had enough. And I did have enough. I was out there a long time, and the great Joe Ward beat me 3 times in a row, and Jesus, that's nothing to be sniffed at. But the environment I brought to that national stadium, me and Joe together, locking horns 3 years in a row, you'll never see it again. I'm not joking with you. Like, they couldn't get a seat. There was people standing. There was queues outside the stadium. Great rivalry there. A young lad coming up with no fear. He didn't give a fiddler's who he was. Yeah. And that's when you know you're in a row, when someone doesn't respect you or doesn't fear, you know. And he brought that to the table. He was very good, don't get me wrong, Jesus. But there was no shame in handling the mantle over to him, you know. I'd won 10 senior titles in a row, reached 13 finals. That's nothing to be sniffed at, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
And then what would you say? Would you look at boxing as something that took something away from you as well?
Look, what would it have been if I hadn't been a boxer? Like, I don't know, you know. Like, I was very good at woodwork. Would I went down the carpentry route? Who knows? If I hadn't qualified that time, where would I be? I don't know what I'd be doing, you know. Yeah. I remember, like, early teens to late teens, I was a waiter up in City West Hotel, serving people. Served Tiger Woods and all when you're over for the Ryder Cup years ago, and making a few pounds while I was still training full time. So it wasn't glamorous. Boxing wasn't glamorous. Like I said, it's not like the Premiership footballers and all this type of stuff. It's rough and ready, you know. You're getting your few pounds, but it's not great. And but I didn't care about that. You know, I just wanted to be part of that team and that environment and try and get the best out of myself and the rest of the team and try and get to an Olympic Games, because it's so special. The Olympic Games is amazing, a tournament to try and aim for, you know. And with so many young athletes out there, and look, teams are getting bigger every year, every 4 years. They're getting stronger across all sports, and it's great that not every child wants to play Gaelic. You know, I know that takes up a lot of numbers in schools and colleges and stuff, but for them to step out and say, I might try an Olympic sport here and see where that takes me, it takes a lot of guts, you know, because it's so unpredictable, it's so hard. But I think we need to encourage more of that, you know, young lads and young girls to aim big, aim high, because sport has been great for me. Look, I've had great years traveling the world, representing the country, meeting new people all over the world, and getting that. It's a privilege to be able to do that and wear that Irish vest, you know. It's special. And I'll always look back at that as something that I really valued over the last 13 years I was on the team, you know. So I'll never regret anything in that sense. It was a great time to be alive and represent the country.
Do you feel that sort of identity still gets to you a bit in terms of, there's Kenneth Egan, Kenneth Egan the boxer?
Yeah, I struggled with that when I retired, because I remember going to Billy Walsh, my last senior final against Joe Ward, and I had saying, if I don't win here tonight, now 9 times out of 10 he was going to beat me, because he was getting stronger and I was getting that bit older, and but if he beats me here tonight, I'm calling it a night. And Billy says, Jesus, I said, look, I'd love to come back in as a coach, maybe work with the junior team in the high performance program. Billy said, Jeez, Ken, that's a great idea. We haven't got any funding, but you can come in as a volunteer. And I kind of took a step back, you know. So hang on for a second. Like, I'm after giving nearly 12 years of my life here to this program, and you're telling me you want me in as a volunteer. And that's when I kind of stepped away from the sport, you know. Now, they had no right to give me a job, by the way. That was me feeling sorry for myself. Poor me, poor me. And it was probably the best thing, because I had to stand out on my own 2 feet then. I was mollycoddled for 12 years, 13 years. Flights booked, fed 4 times a day, hotels booked. Everything was done for us. We were just going around like big babies. As Roy Keane would say, you're a big baby. You know, he's right. We were big kids. And then to step away from that and say, Jesus, I'm an adult here now.
Responsibility, as you mentioned before, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm retiring from boxing. I'm stepping away from that world. Who was Kenneth Egan? I can't walk down to the Bank of Ireland with my Olympic medal and ask for a mortgage. How are you, buddy? They'd run you out the door. Good luck.
Yeah.
What is that piece of metal?
Yeah.
It's a piece of metal. What does it mean to anyone? It means nothing. What's it worth? It's not worth anything to anyone. It's worth something to me because I earned it. It's value to me because I earned it and pushed myself to the limit to obtain that piece of metal. But to anyone else, it's priceless. It's not worth a penny. So I'm saying, Jesus, right? So I got beaten by Joe, and that was it then. And called me retirement in the ring that night. Standing ovation. It was great, don't get me wrong. Then I said, Kenneth Egan has to do something here. And that was tough. Stepping away from the sport that I loved, not having no direction or no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And they do say that, athletes do die twice. The first time is when they retire. Because that's all I'd known. I'd put all my eggs in one basket, blinkers on, didn't really think about education, just boxing. And that's something that's changed now. It has changed, in relation to dual careers. A lot of athletes in different sports, athletics in particular, and rugby, they all train and they can do online courses, so that transition is much easier when they leave the sport. Boxers, not so much, but they need to start doing that, and I think they are doing that a bit more. So that transition is a big piece. And for me, I didn't have that transition. So while I was thinking about what I was going to do, I was sober, thank God. I got sober in 2010 and retired in early 2013. So with 3 years of sobriety under my belt, and then that's when I went back to college, got the diploma in addiction studies. I wanted to get into that field of addiction, and that's the road I took. I wanted to learn more about myself, about why we are the way we are, and try and help other people and give back. Boxing was finished. I had enough of that, and people say, "Would you not go back into coaching?" Maybe I will in a few years' time. Who knows? Always leave that door open. I'd love to give back, but I had a child then and was rearing the child, and I don't want to be traveling all over the world while she's still growing up. Boxing is very, very demanding. You're on the plane week in, week out as a coach.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I'd have an interest in. So yeah. So that was the step away from that, and getting back into college then was tough as a mature student. I hadn't looked at a book in a long time, but I had to do that. I had to step outside my comfort zone because I couldn't continue to live as Kenneth Egan the boxer, because that's not going to get me anywhere. So then I stepped away from that then, and obviously got me college stuff under my belt and got into that field, and now I'm quite content. I've no ego. People can label me whatever they want. I'm okay with that. I walk down the street and someone might point over and say, that Kenneth Egan fella's an arsehole. I'm fine with that. I just think, what's going on for him that he has to call me an arsehole? I know in my immediate circle, I'm doing the right thing. That's it. Yeah. And I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, that's their problem.
And that's a powerful thing to have, the ability to be able to just let go and say, okay, yeah, I am. Okay, I'm an arsehole. That's grand. No problem. I'm fine with that. And I'm quite content with that. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. That's fine. Jesus. I'm not a people pleaser anymore. And I was a yes man, trying to help everyone out and be there for everyone. There were so many people I let down after those games. Schools with banners waiting for me to turn up, waving their flags in the schoolyards, waiting for me to walk through the gates with the Olympic medal. Where am I? On a high stool in town somewhere, And I had to try and make amends to all these people when I got sober. And I did some of them. Some I couldn't get in contact with. Some I didn't have record of. But I tried to help out as many as I could, Because I wasn't a nice person back then. I wasn't a nice person. And the girl I was with at the Olympic Games, she needs a mention in this podcast because she was a special girl. Back in 2007 and 8, I was with her, and I threw her to the side like a piece of dirt. I was very public, the papers got hold of it and all this type of stuff, and it was carnage. And I just went AWOL, and she didn't deserve that. And I treated her like a fucking piece of dirt, and that was horrendous, But I got sober and I got me shit together, and I got into recovery, and I looked after myself. And 5 years later, I picked up the phone and sent her a text. I'd want to talk to her, and she wrote back, "Fuck off." I thought, that's fair enough. But I persisted because I wanted to try and make amends as best I could, and ended up meeting up anyway, got talking. And now we have that 10-year-old daughter. She gave me another chance. She took a risk, a massive risk, in taking me back on board. I caused havoc. I had to win our parents over. I had to sit down and apologise and make amends and do all the right things, and the trust had to be rebuilt. But she gave me that chance, and we got married, we had the child, So good things happen to good people, And I would never jeopardise any of that now for that first pint of Guinness.
Is that your wife today?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She took me back. We're still married.
It's amazing. Wow.
She didn't have to. She didn't have to.
Yeah, that's something in itself.
Yeah.
Power of forgiveness.
Power of forgiveness, exactly. And the power of taking a risk again, you know. We all have to take risks in life. You can't sit, no one achieves that and standing still. And I had the audacity, if you like, to even pick up the phone and ring her in the first place. But I knew what I did was wrong and to try and make amends. And I didn't know whether she had moved on or not or any of those things. But I just knew that I needed to apologise. And that was it. We just got talking and, you know, got back together and you know, got married a couple of years later and have the 10-year-old. And it's great, you know.
Yeah.
That's recovery, man. That's recovery in a shell.
It is.
In a nutshell, you know, it's brilliant.
And do you feel like you've fully forgiven yourself at this point?
I'm well over the carnage and the madness and the letting down. And I'm in a good place. You know, I'm content. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for what I have today. You know, I'm not worried about what people think of me. I'm not worried about if I upset people. I just do the right thing on a daily basis. And I'm on the right road. You know, I don't want to harm anybody. As you mentioned, talk about this boxing show I'm doing. Getting back into the ring in July the 11th. It's a Saturday night in the Bluebell Football Club. How did this come around? It's madness. I'm retired 10 years, more than 10 years. I fought that last fight I fought in Uganda 2016. So I've been out of the ring a long time. I still know how to throw a punch, by the way. Just let you understand that.
Just let the opponent know there, yeah.
But it's great. And I just said, you know what? I want to try and do something. I'm still grieving for my mum. She passed away in November, and it's horrible. You know, it's really sad because I was very close to my mum. While all the other brothers went out and worked 9 to 5s and moved out, when the older brothers moved out and had started families, I was always still at the family at home, going to training camps, coming home. So I was very close to my mum, sitting at the kitchen table and talking. And last year, November, when she passed, you know, it was that final, just the end, that phone call. You can't get it back. You can't get those minutes back to sit down and talk to her. And we'd have great crack. And she was, imagine in a house of 5 boys. She's heard it all. She's seen it all.
Yeah.
You know, a great woman to take the stick as well and give stick, mind you. She was great humour, a Kilkenny woman, but great crack. And I do miss her. And sometimes I'm driving down the car and I just think of her and hit me like a ton of bricks. And
you allowing yourself to go through
yeah,
that grieving
process?
I do.
Yeah. It's part of it, you know. And I don't know how long it'll take or how quick it'll be or how slow it'll be. But I know that as long as I stay sober, I'm doing a good deed, you know, to my mum, because I know the pain I caused her with me drinking. But no, it's just
giving back to her now.
Yeah, giving back now, and this idea come up that look, I'm going to get back into the ring here. It's against the guy. His name is Luis Castillo, and he's given me the opportunity to get back into the ring, which is great. He's accepted this fight. Now look, I'm a has-been. I'm a 44-year-old outfit. He's a young lad, but what I do bring to the game is a bit of experience. And I think, you know, I set up a GoFundMe page, Kenneth Egan, The Last Dance it's called. So if anyone out there is listening to this podcast, and I'm sure you have lots of listeners,
yeah,
Kenneth Egan, The Last Dance, if you can donate €5, €5 is all I ask. Throw it in there. Irish Cancer Society. I asked my mother-in-law, who has cancer, Linda, when I was thinking about stepping back into the ring, what charity should I pick? And straight away she said Irish Cancer Society. She's living with cancer 10 years now. She's fighting a serious battle. And I said, right, that's it. That's it. I'm just going to go with that. No other one. Just let's go with that. So there's $9,500 in it already. It's only open about a week and a half. So
class.
There's another 8 weeks left to go. I'm
We'll
back in training.
Plugs here.
Yeah, I'm back in training. I'm training hard. I'm getting a bit of sparring in. And I'm going to be the best version of myself stepping in through them ropes. I'm not taking this lightly. No way. You know, I want to give the crowd a good account of myself and give myself a good account of myself. But I know the real winner on this night is the Irish Cancer Society. So every ticket that's sold, I sell €20 goes into the charity. So it's great that it's getting a bit of traction now and a bit of interest because, again, it's not an ego thing. I'd be happily retired, but this is just something that I can use my profile to step back into the ring for a 4-2-minute round fight and raise God knows how much for the Irish Cancer Society. There's a little bit of a fire in my belly when I'm even talking about this because it's great that it gets me up off my arse again. Not that I was lazy, but I'm going to start training hard again and the night is going to be electric. You know, it's going to be great. I'm the main event. To step through those ropes again, knowing that wherever happens, there's going to be money raised for a charity. And look, it's a no-brainer. So to GoFundMe, Kenneth Egan, The Last Dance. If anyone wants to donate, €5, €10, wherever they want. And it's going to be a great night. And that's something to just give them back, you know. Yeah,
well, the link is going to be below the show notes there, so do check that out too. Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience here that perhaps would have really helped you during your darkest moment in life?
For me, there's 24 hours in a day. No matter how good or bad it is, there's always tomorrow. And if anyone is struggling today, when they're listening to this podcast, or the following day or the following week, ask for help. Pick up a phone. It can be a family member. It can be a stranger. It can be a relative. Ask for help to try and navigate your way out of whatever's going on for you. That's the first step. To understand there's something going on, and then just step outside of that and just say, you know what, I need a bit of a guidance here, a little bit of help, no judgment.
Why do you feel it's so difficult though for people to make that first call?
Because aren't they fearful of judgment? Aren't they? The stigma around, oh, men are bullet for, and I'm not talking about men solely, it's men and women, but you know. I'm
thinking as well of what you said earlier in terms of going into that first AA meeting and afraid of people recognizing you or seeing you, but then having no sense of shame because you're hanging about in the pub or falling off stools. It's like that's more socially accepted than actually being in a place where you're seeking help.
Well, how often do you sit in a room with a group of adults and sit openly and talk honestly about feelings and emotions and how your day is? Like, what other person would do that?
True. That's
very rare.
That's a big influence in terms of what I do. Like, you know, just giving men that space to share.
It's powerful.
Shame free.
Oh Jesus! When you're in an AA meeting, and especially you get a good one, and there's all walks of life there, men and women, and we're just sharing about honest stuff. That in itself is powerful.
Yeah.
You don't get that anywhere else. You won't get that in a high stool in a pub. You get nonsense. You get some arsehole telling you the same joke 15 times, thinking he's hilarious.
Well, they're avoiding the truth, whereas
of course
in those meetings, they're embracing the truth.
It's real and it's honest, and it's people that want change. They want to change what's going on in their lives. What they're doing at that given moment is not working for them. So they want to say, you know what, I need help here. And they're reaching out and they're getting involved in an environment where it's open, it's honest, and it allows them just to be authentic with themselves and say, you know what, I'm in the right place here. And it's about keep coming back, keep getting, as I say, someone said to me before, when you go to AA, you get little nuggets of wisdom and you rob those nuggets and you put them in your own little bag and you use them to stay sober. And it's so true. Every different story will have a little nugget in it. Oh, I'll take that. And this guy, I was in early recovery. He was from America. I'll never forget. He was about 7 foot tall. And he walked up to me and he says, Kenneth, what's the record for someone staying sober? What's the record in sobriety? I looked at him. I don't know, 80 years? No, he said, 24 hours. Now, at the time, I didn't really understand what he was talking about. I said, all right, 24 hours. But looking back now and more in recovery, that's all we have is the 24 hours. Now, that doesn't matter if it's recovery or if it's a state of mind or we have the 24 hours. Whatever we do in that 24 hours, that's gone and we move on to the next 24. All you have is that day, one day at a time.
Yeah.
You know, it's how do you eat the elephant? Bit by bit.
Yeah.
You know, did I ever think I'd be 16 years sober back when I walked into that first AA meeting? The thoughts of that going, oh, I'm never going to drink again for 16 years. Just stay sober on that first day.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Just like the same principle when it came to your success in boxing.
One round at a time, one punch at a time. That mindful attitude.
Yeah.
You know, not worrying about external pressures, expectations, results, all that type of stuff. Once I don't drink today, I have a great chance of having a half decent day throughout the rest of the day. You know, it's going to be productive. It's going to be, I can answer calls. I can make phone calls. I can send a text. I can be trustworthy, reliable, dependable, honest, open. If I'm drinking, I'm none of those.
Yeah. The power of being in the present.
Yeah. Powerful.
Fair play, man. It's been an honor to have you here, man. And
thanks finally for inviting me over and me for getting here.
Yes.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks a million. And hopefully someone will get something out of this because
they will, for sure. Yeah.
It's great.
It's highly relatable. And of course, we'll add in all the links on the podcast there for the show, but also if anyone wants to reach out to you, find out more about you, again, just follow you. Where's the best place to get you at? I'm on Instagram, Kenneth Egan, OLY.com website. Yeah. All that's there. Find me handy enough, yeah. Great stuff. Kenneth Egan. Been a pleasure. The one and only. Thank you. Thanks, man. Good man. All right, until next one. Fair play to you. Cheers, buddy. Super. Thank you. Yeah. That was great. Thank you again for tuning in to this episode. If there has been something that has resonated with you on this conversation, ping me a message over on Instagram at Gavin Meenan and let me know what it was. Chat soon.